Man has always had a complicated relationship with time. For the early cave dwellers, it was pretty cut and dry. When it's light, time to hunt. When it's dark, try not to get eaten. But all that began to change a few thousand years later, when monks felt the need to pray every few hours. So mechanical clocks were invented to keep them on schedule. And by the time the Industrial Revolution rolled around, everything began to run like, well, clockwork. Now, the reason we bring all this up is because we're glad you've taken the time to join us for this podcast. This is where we like to ask some of the questions you've always wondered about, including those having to do with time. Like, why do we call it rush hour when nothing moves? If you could save time in a bottle, how do you possibly get it past TSA? And if time is money, how come my bank account doesn't show it? Those are just some of the questions that have plagued philosophers, scientists, and anyone who has ever hit the snooze button more than once. But whether time is a line, a circle, or just a cruel prank of the universe, the time has come for us to say, welcome to the podcast.
It's the Always Wondered podcast.
Hi, I'm Rick Peterson. Thanks for joining us. Some of the world's greatest inventions were born out of necessity. The wheel, fire, G.I. Joe with Kung Fu grip. And then there are those inventions that were stumbled upon, much like you running into your nightstand in the middle of the night. One such creation is bubble wrap. What started as a complete failure went on to become the patron saint of poor packing. So if you've always wondered how bubble wrap came to be, well, grab a sheet and let's start popping. Our story begins in 1957. Two engineers, Al Fielding and Mark Chavance, looked at the flat, boring walls of the 1950s when one of them said something like,
"What this world needs is textured wallpaper."
To which the other probably replied,
"Great, let's do plastic bubbles."
Yeah, you heard that right. What we now know as bubble wrap was initially envisioned as some modernistic mid-century home decor that looked as though your drywall had acne.
Okay.
Care to guess how that went over? Yeah, that was pretty much it. Now, most inventors would have popped their own dreams and moved on. But not these two. They said,
If people don't want to stare at it, how about we wrap stuff in it?
at first they tried selling it to greenhouses to wrap plants. But the plants were unimpressed. However, their big break came a couple years later when IBM released their brand new 1401 computer. It was called the Model T of computers because it finally made computing more affordable for business. But what IBM needed was a way to ship these fragile machines without turning them into expensive paperweights. And as it turned out, bubble wrap was the perfect solution. And we've been wrapping stuff in it ever since. But bubble wrap proved to have one more use that no one ever saw coming. Recreational popping. That satisfying little snap released more dopamine than a toddler with a juice box. It became a universal stress reliever, a workplace distraction, and the unofficial soundtrack to moving day. So let's give a 21 pop salute to bubble wrap. The invention that failed, evolved, adapted, and became the crinkly hero we never asked for, but desperately needed.
The Always Wondered podcast.
Hey, we've all been there. You're about to enjoy a perfectly civilized beverage with friends when someone proposes a toast, and suddenly it starts. Clink after clink. The room becomes a glass-on-glass gladiator arena, people lunging across the table like fencers trying to bonk their cup against yours. This isn't a toast. It looks more like combat. So it begs the question, have you always wondered why we clink our glasses when we toast? Now, the romantics among us claim the clink was invented to appeal to all five senses. You see the drink, you smell it, you taste it, you feel the smooth glass in your hand, and now with the clink, you hear it too. But if you've been paying attention to this podcast, you should know by now that these customs never have their origins in something so sweet and wholesome as embracing the senses. In fact, your sixth sense is probably telling you that's a bunch of hogwash. I mean, after all, these are humans and alcohol we're talking about, and trust me, when those two meet, it's never pretty. So this might be the real reason we clink. In medieval Europe, back when poisoning someone was considered a simple way to cancel a meeting, the toast evolved as a test of trust. A good solid clink would splash alcohol between the mugs. You're basically now sharing your drinks. thus proving that no one was trying to kill you. At least not yet. That may come later. But for the present, it was a way to say,
If you die, I do too. Bottoms up.
think of it as a medieval version of a Cold War arms agreement. Mutually assured poisoning. So the next time someone offers a toast, remember, you're participating in a centuries-old tradition rooted in distrust, danger, and questionable hygiene. Clink your glass proudly, smile warmly, and take the first sip after everyone else. Just in case. Cheers.
It's the Always Wondered podcast.
It's the Swiss Army knife of phrases. Vague enough to apply anywhere, safe enough to offend no one, and short enough to end conversations politely. It is what it is. You've heard it used over and over again. But have you always wondered the origin of the phrase, it is what it is? Well, let's try to come up with something for the phrase that really means nothing. The saying had its roots in a 1949 newspaper article describing the harsh realities of life in Nebraska, essentially saying, you can't complain about it or try to change it. But let's be honest, humans were probably muttering something along those lines long before, especially when plans went sideways.
Captain Columbus, we were sailing for India, but we ran into America instead.
It is what it is.
Despite sounding deep, it is what it is doesn't offer a solution, insight, or plan. It's basically a way to say,
Stop asking questions. I give up.
but it truly works in almost any situation. Your team loses in the last second.
It is what it is.
Your cake collapses in the oven.
It is what it is.
Your toddler scribbles all over their bedroom wall.
It is what it is.
We love the phrase because it's flexible. It provides wisdom
Some things can't be changed.
and an escape hatch.
I can't discuss this anymore. Now pass me the chips.
So the next time life throws you a curveball, the Wi-Fi goes out, your flight is delayed, or your cat coughs up a hairball on your brand new couch, just tell yourself, it is what it is. And then quietly go pour yourself a drink.
The Always Wondered podcast.
Well, that's going to do it for this episode. Remember, catch new episodes each and every Friday on your favorite podcast platform. And we'd love to hear from you, too. Just email us at alwayswonderedpodcast@gmail.com. As always, we leave you with one to ponder. Have you always wondered why USB connectors always take at least 3 tries to go in when there's only 2 possible directions? Until next time, I'm Rick Peterson. Thanks for listening.
The Always Wondered podcast. If you like what you hear, please subscribe, leave a 5-star rating, and a review. Listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you pod. Feel free to offer suggestions for future topics or simply reach out to alwayswonderedpodcast@gmail.com.